So let it begin right here, right now. Earth Revolution.
Hey everybody, welcome to Earth Revolution. We are still the home of the green scene here in Nashville, Tennessee, and today we are in Gallatin, Tennessee, and I'm visiting with Marcus Sisk. Hey Marcus, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Marcus is designing behind me here what's known as an Earth ship, and this is a home design technology or array of technologies that was first developed by a guy named Michael Reynolds from New Mexico. And Marcus has taken one of the plans developed by Michael Reynolds and his team of builders and is creating this amazing Earthship structure behind us. We're going to be looking around the outside of it as well as inside and at the various systems that are used to make this a fully self-sustaining building. So Marcus, tell me a little bit about what inspired you to do this? When did you start this project, and so on?
Okay. I first heard about Earthships several years ago from my uncle, and then he just told me that I needed to check it out. He saw the movie Garbage Warrior, which is about the creator, Michael Reynolds. And it just stuck in the back of my head until several years later I went to a seminar and learned about, heard Michael Reynolds speak about the design. And after that, I started volunteering with the company on buildings in Guatemala and in Wyoming, and then eventually went to their academy in New Mexico for 2 months, where we worked on buildings and then also had some classroom sessions learning about the different components of biotecture and Earthships.
Wow, very intensive. 2 whole months of just kind of hands-on learning it from the inside out. And you have spoken a little bit about the integrated design and the different systems that are part of the Earth ship and why it's able to be fully self-sustaining and off-grid. Can you talk about those systems? What are they?
Sure, yeah. So all Earthships feature passive solar design, which allows the building to be heated and cooled without electricity or fossil fuels, just by the design of the building. Rainwater catchment, so that all your water comes from the sky. Food production inside the home, sewage treatment contained within the home, solar and wind electricity, and then also built using local and recycled materials.
Okay, and it's interesting to note, and I have so many questions for you, so I'm going to be asking a lot of questions, but if you can see the sides of the building here, you can see that one of the characteristics of the Earthship is the use of, as Marcus said, sort of what would be considered waste materials. There's like cans and bottles and tires and things you wouldn't expect to see as part of the construction of a home. Now, what is the thinking, just to kind of find a constructive way of utilizing what would otherwise end up in a landfill?
Exactly, yeah. I guess Michael Reynolds in the early 70s started experimenting with building with beer cans, just because there was talk in the media of, beer cans lining the roadways and a need for, dealing with energy shortages, possible energy shortages in the future. So a more sustainable way of building using materials that are limitless and abundant all over the planet.
Yeah, which is sad to say that waste is limitless and abundant, but we have an awful lot of cans and so on and tires. So this is one of the walls of the building, and you've got a variety of materials here. Let's just take a look at these and just kind of explain how they function as part of the structure of the building.
All right. Well, the foundation and the load-bearing walls of the Earthship are all made out of used automobile tires that are filled with dirt, and then the dirt is compacted in using a sledgehammer and using your bare hands and various tools until the tire weighs 200 to 300 pounds and is very solid. It actually exceeds the compressive strength of concrete.
Wow.
And exceeds the density of concrete, and it enables a very wide, dense wall and foundation that's capable of storing thermal energy.
That's really interesting. Now, some people might be concerned about like the rubber from the tires off-gassing toxic chemicals or anything, but you cover them over with dirt and stuff, so that is that an issue, or is that not an issue?
It seems to be a non-issue. Actually, tires are more likely to off-gas and emit toxic chemicals into the environment when they're exposed to the elements, water and sunlight especially, ultraviolet light. So, sitting out in a pile in a junkyard, they have even been known to spontaneously combust, and then they're burning all kinds of toxic fumes into the air.
Right.
But in this case, they're completely covered, embedded with cement or mud plaster, so they're not exposed to oxygen or light or anything like that.
So they're just providing tensile strength and integrity to the structure.
Mm-hmm.
And what about and above that you've got glass bottles and then cans of all kinds. And what's in between there? Is that cement or is that just mud?
Yeah, this is a cement mortar here. You can use the same technique using cob or adobe or different kinds of mixtures like that. They're just more subject to erosion. So in a exterior application for permanent sake, we use cement. And the strength is really in the matrix of cement in between the bottles and cans here. The bottles and cans are merely just to take up space and just use less concrete.
Okay.
And make a very simple way of forming all kinds of shapes without using wooden formwork.
Okay, and even though are they crushed, the cans inside there? Or?
We actually pinch the cans just a little bit as we put them in to keep them from slipping out.
Gotcha. And what about this? This is some kind of insulating material that's going to go around the whole structure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you begin the building from the ground up with the tires, you usually come out on the outside of the building with this variable insulation. And that's to trap the thermal energy that's stored in the tires and keep that heat from leaking out into the surrounding ground.
Okay, so that's going to hold in a lot of the warmth during the winter and so on.
And that's mostly needed in very extreme climates. This building was designed to perform in Taos, New Mexico, where they have -30, -35 Fahrenheit winters.
Right.
And they say that it's really not needed in a more temperate climate like we have here, but I'm just adding a small amount of it just to ensure that it'll be comfortable in all situations.
Just in case.
Yeah.
That's right. Good idea. Okay, so we're at another portion toward the back of the house where there's rainwater catchment right up here. If you see this black kind of tube coming up from the back here, it goes into a 600-gallon water cistern. Marcus, talk about the water catchment here.
Well, to finish the roof here, we'll add layers of plaster and a gutter that will channel all of the rainwater into this underground tank here. And it's buried underground to keep it out of sunlight, stabilize the temperature and keep algae from growing in there. And then that water is just gravity fed right into the building, where it'll go into a filtration system that allows it to be used for all conventional purposes.
Okay, so every function in the building is going to be met by this rainwater.
Mm-hmm.
And it's filtered as it goes in, and
Mm-hmm.
it just sits there. It's collected from the rain, and okay.
There's an initial silt catch right on the top of the cistern, or there will be, that keeps the first layer of debris out of the cistern, and then it's filtered more times after it enters the building.
Okay. All right, very cool. Okay, here we're at the back side of the Earthship, and this massive pile of dirt here has been brought in by Marcus and a lot of people who were helping him here to kind of create a stable temperature inside the house, inside the Earthship, and you also have this tube running in. Can you tell us a little bit about what this is for and some other aspects of temperature?
Sure. Yeah. Well, basically, just by being bermed on all sides, or essentially built within the Earth, the Earthship is tapping into the temperature below the frost line, which is a constant 58 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's just a little bit of tempering needed from there to get into the comfortable zone.
Yeah.
When it's extremely hot outside, we enable passive airflow coming through these cooling tubes that will cool the air down towards that 58 degrees Fahrenheit temperature and then come moving into the building. So.
Right.
And there's a skylight up on the top of the greenhouse that allows the hot air collecting in the greenhouse to escape, which creates suction pulling the air through here. These will be underground over 35 feet. This burial will eventually go all the way up to the roof of the building and come down out to the end of these pipes here.
Okay, so the dirt's going to go all the way up to the top,
Mm-hmm.
and this pipe alone is going to run through. That's going to be sufficient to cool the whole space.
There's another pipe for the other main room, and then I also have an additional one for the bathroom over there.
Okay, and and we're going to look momentarily inside the Earthship too, so we get a sense of the space. But how many square feet is the interior of this so far?
It's about 700 square feet.
Okay.
Including the greenhouse.
Including the greenhouse. Okay, and the greenhouse is on the front where we started. We'll be taking a closer look at some of that too. All right, let's go inside and take a look.
Sure.
So before, we were looking at the outside of the building where the rainwater catchment and the big cistern were located at the back of the building underneath the earth berm. And this is where the tubing comes into the house, and this is where the water comes in that basically supplies the whole house. So talk about that. How, from here, where does it go?
Well, the water comes into the house just fed by gravity, and from there it will go into a panel right over here that will contain a series of filters and pumps, and also a pressure tank that allows you to get filtered, pressurized water that will then go to all the various fixtures in the house, where, you know, the sinks and the showers.
Okay, so you're going to have plumbing running, what, around the sort of the floor perimeter to the different rooms where it's needed, basically the bathroom and the kitchen?
Right, yeah, my pressure tank will be in the utility closet with the other kind of utility equipment, and that's where the water will be sent to store the pressure. So there'll be one small pump that comes on to push the water into that tank where it's stored for use later, so that your pump doesn't have to come on every time you use water pressure.
Okay, and how are you going to heat your water for showers? Did we talk about that? And for hot water at the kitchen sink and so on?
Well, this is what's called the simple survival model. So it's designed to have as little infrastructure as possible. So for this model, you would typically just use a camp shower bag for heating water, and you'd hang that in the greenhouse. And it's a pretty effective way of heating water. Eventually, I'd like to have a solar, panel collector so that I could heat and store that water a little more effectively. But.
Can you mount a typical solar thermal kind of panel system on the roof of this once it's completed?
Sure, yeah. Also, a lot of earthships use on-demand propane heater as a backup. So.
Is that something you're considering as well?
Maybe someday, yeah. For now, I'm going to use the camp shower bag and see how far that
you're
gets
roughing
me.
it.
Yeah.
So what degree temperature will the water get to conceivably? Like in the summer, obviously it'll get warmer because it's going to be warmer. But in the winter, you can count on temperatures kind of lukewarm or actually getting pretty warm by the sun, or?
As long as the sun is shining, yeah. The bag says I think you can expect at least 20 degrees above the outside temperature. I'm not sure. It may be more than that.
Okay.
But also you can always heat water on the stove and add that to your camp shower bag if it's not warm enough.
Okay, and your filters and everything are going to go basically across here. They're going to come in at the pipe and then just kind of filter.
Yeah, they'll be all installed behind the countertops, the kitchen countertops here, so you can open up the cabinetry and get back for maintenance if needed.
And you have to replace the filters regularly and things like that?
By using a series of filters, a larger mesh and then increasingly smaller mesh, it preserves the life of each filter quite a bit. So you can pull them out and clean them, but they don't have to be replaced very often. So.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. And this is going to be the bathroom. And also that he's got a heating and cooling pipe that we saw from outside coming into this room. So talk a little bit about the sort of the plumbing and the structural elements of this.
Okay, so once the bathroom is complete, there'll be a shower in here, and the whole floor of the bathroom in this case is actually the shower drain. I guess it's what they call a wet bath. So the water will be contained within rubber lining that goes underneath this gravel and will all collect and come through this pipe here and into the greenhouse hallway where it will be used to grow food. So any of the fixtures that you use in the house, whether you're washing your hands or taking a shower, that water goes directly into the planters and is reused and actually filtered by the plants. It can then be used again to flush the toilet. Once it goes through the planters and comes to the end of the line, it's clean enough that you can pump it in. It might have a mild odor. It wouldn't be drinkable, but it's good enough to flush your toilet with. So.
Okay, so because we talked a little bit about one of the aspects of this house being kind of self-contained is using rainwater and then recycling and using the gray water that you've already used in the shower and the sink to then feed the plants, nourish the plants, and then what happens once it reaches the toilet and gets flushed? Where does it go from there? Do you have septic? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so when the toilet is flushed, it goes straight into a conventional septic tank, or in this case, what they call an outlaw septic tank, which is conceptually the same thing, but it's made using different materials, recycled materials.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes to a conventional septic tank, and then the effluent overflows from that into more rubber-lined botanical cells for producing more food.
Oh, okay. So once the effluent goes into the plant material, it's kind of cleansed and purified. But that's sort of its stopping point, or does it go filter through the cycle again once it's been cleaned? How does that work?
Yeah, well, after it's been in the septic tank, most of that biological process has already taken place, and the plants are cleaning it down an extra level. In a conventional home, the septic tank just overflows into a leach field and then goes straight back into the ground.
Right.
So this is just processing that waste another extra level and making use of those nutrients to grow plants.
Yeah.
And then after it's been through the outside blackwater botanical cell, it goes into a conventional leach field and then back into the groundwater.
Okay. And it's going to be nourishing the plants in this whole area from where we are standing all the way to the other end of the house is going to be the greenhouse that you grow your food in. Is that correct?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And what are give some examples of some of the plants that you intend to grow?
Oh, well, anything I can, really, as much as I can. The first thing I'm going to put in here is that banana tree over there. It'd be cool to have local Nashville bananas.
Yeah.
It's kind of unusual.
We don't grow a lot of those around here. You'll be the first, I think.
And tomatoes, avocados, citrus, and yeah, pretty much anything and everything.
Nice. You can grow hops, make your own beer.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool. Microbrewery out here.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just talking about the bathroom on the other side of the house. Now we're on the opposite side, and this is a utility closet. When we started the show, we were in front where Marcus has a big solar panel, or moderate solar panel, but that's going to provide some of the energy needs, some of the electricity for the house. So talk about this. What have you got in here in the way of electricity and so on?
Yeah, so this is my utility closet. This is where, small storage and my breaker boxes and all my power equipment will go. The panels out front here are connected through a cable in here to a charge controller, which then hooks up to the batteries. The charge controller regulates the flow of electricity from the panels to the batteries.
Okay.
And then from the batteries, we have DC lighting throughout the house, and all of our pumps and kind of things that are run on a regular basis are DC straight off the batteries.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
And then we also have an AC inverter for providing, 110 volt conventional wall outlet power like you're used to in a normal house.
Okay, and you'll have to limit your use of that, obviously, depending upon how much energy is in the batteries at any given time. Is it harder at night? Because are the batteries efficient in terms of storage? How's that going to work for you in terms of your ability to use electricity the way most of us are used to?
Yeah, well, my system is a particularly small system, so with this system I'll have to limit my usage of certain things at nighttime. When the sun's not shining, I'll be limited to lights and computers and low wattage things like that. But when the sun's shining, I've used all my power tools and cement mixer. This building was essentially constructed exclusively with solar power, and we have a backup generator we use just every once in a while.
Wow. And what kind of batteries are you using?
In this case, we're using Deca 8L16 deep cell.
Like marine batteries?
Similar to a marine battery. It's made to store a deep charge and then be recharged and depleted over and over again. Whereas like your car battery just likes to kind of be at a full charge all the time. So.
Okay, so this once it's charged, will it retain the charge as long as it needs to until it's used within the house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It has a certain amount of loss over time, but the sun comes out on a relatively regular basis to boost it back up again.
So being off the grid is not necessarily a huge sacrifice. You're still going to be able to power a lot of your basic needs.
Yeah, and especially if you wanted, the capacity of a conventional home, it would, in the case of an Earthship, it would just be, a little bit larger power system. But because your heating and cooling is not dependent on electricity,
right.
and so many of the other functions are passive,
yes.
that lowers the needed wattage of your power system significantly.
Yeah. See, this is what's so brilliant about a design like this, and I recently did a show with another couple, Doug and Claudia Kalmer in Lutz, Tennessee, who have a passive solar design home, and they also have solar panels that meet most of their needs for the same reason, because they don't need electricity from the grid or from fossil fuels to provide for their heating and cooling. The house is designed like yours. They have the earth at the back that kind of stabilizes the internal temperature, and they have a greenhouse just like you do, and have really thought through that process. So this is great. Let's take a look at where your kitchen's going to be and some of the other rooms of the house and just talk a little more about these systems.
Okay.
So let's just talk about the floor plan here a little bit. You said you have about 700 square feet total space, including the greenhouse. So where are the different parts of your household going to be?
Well, an airship, the rooms in an airship are usually a series of U-shaped modules, and so in this particular U room is going to be a combination of kitchen and living area. Of course, this whole space is going to be kind of a music studio, so I kind of just picture instruments in every corner of every lack of a corner, I guess. But,
What do you play?
I play piano and guitar and whatever I can get my hands on.
Awesome! And you're going to have a piano here as well?
Yeah, that's probably one of the first things I'll get once the floor is complete. So.
Wonderful. Okay. What else? So this will kind of be the music studio.
Yeah. So I'll have seating along the back wall here, with easy access to the cooling tube.
Okay.
And then this is a open pathway connecting the two U-shaped modules in this case. And this center island here will be a combination desk, office desk and dining room table, sort of bar area.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
this room will be more of the bedroom. I'm going to have a lofted sleeping area up in this corner. You can see there's
nice.
anchor bolts coming through the concrete vaulted roof structure that will hold the suspended loft bed there, so I don't have to have beams coming down into the floor.
Oh, so you're not going to support it from the bottom at all. You're just going to have it hanging?
It's going to be hanging from the concrete roof structure and then also fastened into the bond beam here, which is the concrete beam going along the top of the tire wall.
Okay, and essentially that's just going to be your bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have your dresser and kind of other things down here.
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to build, is there any part of this that you're having as a sort of a closet for your, clothes, shoes and all that? Or are you just kind of doing that differently?
Yeah, I just imagine having some shelving space and dresser area underneath the lofted sleeping area. This part of the roof that you see here is what's called ferro cement, which basically just means a thin concrete slab. And in this case, it's in a curved shape, which makes it super resilient to loads or storms or tornadoes or anything like that.
Okay.
But also above these vaults is compacted dirt. So this whole roof is actually buried and then filled up to a flat slab that will catch the rainwater. So there's extra mass in the ceiling actually that will help stabilize the temperature as well.
Okay, so this thing could probably withstand any kind of weather event pretty securely. If let's say a tornado, heaven forbid, but came through here, this is built to be strong. It's built to last. Absolutely.
I would imagine that this part of the structure, the tire and concrete structure, could easily outlast any structure known to mankind.
Yeah.
The building is somewhat vulnerable on the south face with all the greenhouse glass, so the building could sustain damage and need repair. But there have been earthships, that were in the middle of massive forest fires that the whole building was, destroyed, but the tire wall and all the concrete remained, just ready to build right back onto again.
Right. And what is the material that you're covering the concrete with above head here? It looks like a metal mesh screening that's going to be covered over with something, perhaps?
Yes. The metal lath that you see is actually serves to catch the plaster as you're applying it from the outside.
Okay.
And now we'll finish the inside, in this case just by using joint compound to smooth it out and get it white, and then it will be painted.
Okay, so this is the beginning of the joint compound being applied.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you'll just use probably like a lower no VOC paint over that, normal paint.
Mhm.
Okay. And as you talked a little bit about this being one of Michael Reynolds' designs, how did you select this particular design for your home?
Well, this is what's called the simple survival model. So it's designed to have all of the features of the airship, the 6 principles like I mentioned earlier, but in the most simplified fashion so it can be affordable to the majority of the world's people.
Right.
They've designed what's called the global model airship, which is comparable in cost to a well-built conventional home, and it has all of the same amenities. You could basically transplant a modern American family into a global model airship with very little lifestyle adjustment.
Really?
But the problem is that type of housing isn't really affordable to the majority of the world's people. So this is an attempt at making a house that more people can actually afford to have. So.
Afford to have. And so with a lot of the materials here being the tires and stuff, what are the costs for you, and where are you sourcing your materials? Where are you getting your tires and all the cans and bottles needed to go in and the concrete and so on?
A lot of the cans and bottles have been provided by the donations of friends and strangers who've been following me on my website, and also just things that I've been collecting over the last couple of years. The tires all came from local used tire shops.
Okay.
And they're eager to get rid of them because they actually have to pay to dispose of them usually. So.
Oh, so do you get those for free? Or
Yeah, yeah.
So you can just take them off people's hands, and you've got building materials.
Sure, and I've even heard of people getting paid to start their homes to haul off the tires and actually make some money in the beginning stages of their building. So.
Wow, that's like a builder's dream come true right here. What about like the tubing and stuff? Do you just buy that at a conventional hardware store, the tubes that bring the air in, and the PVC piping for the water? Just
Yeah,
all
the
conventional
cooling
stuff?
tubes they use corrugated steel culvert pipe, and that's what they use for going under driveways and things like that for drainage.
Okay, and
It's
that's
just a
strong.
conventional
That's going to
material.
maintain its shape and integrity.
Mhm.
So, if somebody else watching this wanted to design an Earthship, I know you said this is like a simple survival model.
Mhm.
What would be the range of investment that they could expect to make from like the low end, the smallest
Mhm.
Earthship, to the high end?
Well, there's been Earthships built for as little as $20 a square foot, all the way up to Earthship mansions, $1 million plus homes at $200 a square foot. So it's really just whatever the amenities the owner desires, and as far as the finished work and things like that.
Okay. Do you have a sense of what the total you'll be spending here would be?
I'm guessing this building is going to cost me about $35 a square foot for a 700 square foot home once I'm all finished with it.
All right, so we've been here in Gallatin, Tennessee with Marcus Sisk, looking at his Earthship, which is a design, as I said earlier, that was originated by Michael Reynolds, and you actually did an internship with Michael, and he's been working on this for about a year now, and we want to come back when it's finished.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Absolutely.
Good. We want to get to see the finished product. In the meanwhile, can you just reiterate for our viewers, we've been looking at the interior and the exterior of the house, kind of the integrated design, and you said there were 6 main principles that go into designing an Earthship. Can you just kind of reiterate what those are?
Yeah, so the use of local and recycled materials, passive solar design, which allows the building to heat and cool itself naturally,
Yep.
Rainwater catchment, so all the water comes from the sky, electrical from the wind and sun, contained sewage treatment within the house, and food production within the house.
Okay. And when this is totally done and you're actually living here, you expect to kind of meet most of your needs. What will you actually need in the way of external inputs here?
Well, I'll be cooking with propane primarily. Although I'll have a solar oven for that use as well. So I might have to pick up $100 worth of propane each year. But yeah, most Earthship owners experience about $100 yearly utility bills.
Wow.
Just to make their houses work. So it gets everything it needs through a direct encounter with the immediate environment.
Right. And those 6 principles cover so much of what you need. Well, it's wonderful what you're doing out here, so thank you so much for letting us come out and visit you today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your interest.
All
Come
right.
back.
Thank you, Marcus. Okay, I'm your host for the show Earth Revolution, Susan Shan. We've been looking at the Earthship. We'll be back again when it's finished, and until then, peace, love, recycling, and see you next time.
So let it begin right here, right now. Earth Revolution.